Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. It's election night. We've got some big updates coming out of a couple locations. Of course, Georgia is where we're going to dive in first. We have a big development. Yesterday, we saw that Brad Raffensperger, during the count this evening, wanted to bring himself down into a secret bunker in order to exclude the state election board and others from monitoring the elections, giving us all flashbacks to 2020 when they boarded up the windows. And so that nobody could see, they kicked out the observers from various political parties and they said, you don't need to come and monitor anything. You can just trust us. Now we've got a TRO that was announced this afternoon, courtesy of Judge Glanville, and some people like Senator Dolezal and others in Georgia are very happy about that. And we got some follow-up. So you know those two judges, Shamira and the other one, who are running to replace some other Republicans there in Georgia? Well, the judge who was burying all of their judicial complaints is the sister of Stacey Abrams, another Georgian. It's another one of those stories, a big happy family, and we're not included in it. So we're learning more about that. And Fani Willis is also now coming back into the picture because she filed another motion to have another judge recused off the case, a same judge who's running against one of her prosecutors who prosecuted Trump. Georgia's a mess. And so we're going to talk about it today and learn more about Shamira and her friend Stacey Abrams' sister. All coming up. Then Trump with a massive endorsement out of Texas. RINOS very unhappy about this. John Thune was like, I'm John Thune, and was very disappointed today. So we'll listen to some of that. Some updates on Ken Paxton, the man himself, and celebrations out there in Texas. A very nice endorsement. So we'll see exactly what happened out there. And then we got some follow-up to this story. There were apparently 400,000 plus ballots that were shipped out in Maryland going out that are all problematic. You might say fraudulent or they were just mistaken. But when you send out 400,000 ballots, a portion of those people are not going to know that they were fraudulent. They're going to cast their vote. They're never going to get the memo that they need to do it again. And so some might call that voter suppression. We'll talk about it. And I've got a very fun clip today of Ted Cruz and Senator Hirono, known here lovingly as Sex Freak Hirono, because she's always asking questions about sex out there. Every time Trump had a judicial or U.S. attorney or any nominee, essentially, her first questions were about, indicting somebody. And so we've got a great stream planned today. And then, of course, we'll stick around. We'll see if we have any election returns, because there are some big primaries that are afoot out there. And so thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here, for watching the Watchers. My name is Robert Govea, if you are unfamiliar, formerly practicing criminal defense attorney, now practicing in the court of public opinion. And so we're glad to have you here. It is a lovely day, lots to get to. We always like to confirm that the tubes have connected themselves before we just jump in. And it looks like we're coming through loud and clear. What a beautiful day. All right, so lots of updates. Let's get right into it. Starting here. Georgia's secret election bunker now blocked. We know Brad Raffensperger is having a rough day on this news, but Senator Dolezal, who thankfully filed a late night complaint yesterday in order to block all this from happening, declares victory. We have secured a temporary restraining order from Chief Judge Glanville, saying bipartisan members of the state election board and poll watchers will now be allowed inside Brad's bunker to observe tonight's process. And we remember back in 2020 when they were boarding up the windows in various locations around America, same thing was attempted this time, thanks to Brad, the same guy who didn't do anything back in 2020 and who was a beneficiary of a lot of that, what we suspect to be fraud. We saw that the investigations after 2020 were not investigated by his office. Brian Kemp was elevating certain people who were team players to become judges permanently, like Judge, what's his face? You remember who it was, Vic Reynolds, Judge Reynolds, and Judge McAfee is the other judge, who, of course, were appointed to become permanent judges when they played ball. Now, of course, they are trying to turn up the technology. They're trying to escalate this. It's no longer boards on windows. Now it's a bunker tucked away in an emergency site. But this time, transparency wins, baby. The people of Georgia deserve honest, observable elections. And coming up, we're going to see just how problematic these elections are, because the judges, the people who want to be the judges, like this woman called Shamira, she was taking her case to this judge called Leslie Gardner. And of course, her middle name, or her hyphenated last name, is Abrams, because she is the sister of Stacey Abrams. And so it's one big incestuous, disgusting family. And we're going to get into the details here today. But here is the win, courtesy of Greg Dolezal. This is the same senator, state senator, running for lieutenant governor, who is been on this election fraud problem in Fulton County in Georgia for a long time. The same senator who was digging into Fani Willis and Nathan Wade and their little indictment love affair for a long time. He posted the excerpt from the order that just came down today, fresh out of the oven, right as the voting is beginning, saying this matter came before the court on petitioner's verified petition for a writ of mandamus, and Dolezal sued along with Christopher Mora and Kelly Gambrill and said, you can't prevent us from being there and being present to watch the vote. It's Georgia law. And so we read through some parts of the complaint yesterday. We got a quick order from the judge. Here's what it says. The court held an ex parte hearing, which means just on your one side basically was there, the other side was not there, on the morning of today, election day, primary day, for which petitioners were present. So Dolezal and others, their lawyers, were there. Now, the respondent had an opportunity to respond, but didn't. What a loser. So Brad Raffensperger didn't even show up for the hearing. Oh my gosh, this guy's a piece of work. Now, having considered the verified petition, the attached affidavits, and the exhibits, and the entire record, and it appearing to the court that immediate and irreparable injury, loss, and damage will result, saying the court finds as follows. Now, the court has jurisdiction over the parties and the subject matter of this action. This is an election case, and Dolezal and others were saying from the state election board, we have a statutory right to be here. At least one of us. They were proposing at least one party from the Republican side, one party from the Democrat side, come in, join in on the count so that there's no funny business. And honestly, it's amazing that they're not willingly, voluntarily being more transparent about any of this, because they've been living through the accusations and the allegations from people like us for the last 6 years, for crying out loud. Like, if you know that you're doing everything above board, invite everybody in, live stream the whole thing. Come on in here. We've got some tea and crumpets set up right over here for you. Here, have a granola bar, have some lemonade, sit down, get comfy. We're going to be here for a while. But they don't do that. They just, apparently in this case, don't even show up. And maybe they're already in the bunker. So having considered the petition, he says, now the candidates, in this case, Dolezal and the two other candidates, they have demonstrated a substantial likelihood of success on the merits of their claim, saying Georgia law entitles us to be there. Brad is kicking us out. Georgia law expressly entitles properly designated poll watchers, quote, to observe the conduct of the election and the counting of the recording of the votes. Brad blown out. At tabulation centers and related locations, including the Secretary of State's central aggregation and reporting processes. And every time there's a win like this, every time Brad loses, you just ask yourself, wait a minute. If he's willing to violate, in this case, Georgia law 21-2-408D, and he's willing to violate subsection 379.11b and 483b, as we're going to read, and 21-2-30 and 21-2-31, if he's willing to do it in this election, is it out of this world? Is it ridiculous to think that maybe he did the same thing in prior elections? No, of course not. He's willing to do it right here, flagrantly, openly, right on its face. And so the idea that he was above board in preceding elections is a joke as well, because he's willing to hide it here. Why wouldn't he do it in the priors? So the judge says, all proceedings at tabulating centers, quote, shall be open to the view of the public. And it includes his central aggregation and his reporting processes down in his bunker. Now, the state election board possesses independent statutory oversight authority that requires meaningful, real-time access to these processes. So, and remember, the state election board and a lot of these fixes came after 2020. So the law was even looser back then. Now they've tightened it up to say, hey, we have oversight responsibility and we have the right to come in here and review all this stuff. Brad still says, I don't care. Doesn't even show up to the hearing. So petitioners will suffer the candidate's immediate and irreparable injury if relief is not granted. Election day is tomorrow, May 19th, 2026. And I'm pretty sure he signed that May 26 at 10 a.m. So maybe a little bit of a typo. So he wrote, in other words, he cited this, or maybe he was drafting this last night. I don't know, but it's today. Election day is today. And he signed it on May 19th, which is today, which means maybe it's today. Without immediate access for poll watchers and SEB observers, the transparency guaranteed by law will be permanently lost once results are tabulated, aggregated and verified, and reported. No adequate remedy at law exists to restore the status quo after the fact. And so the balance of the equities favors the candidates. And by the way, Brad Raffensperger is running today. And I don't think he's got a good shot at winning, but he's literally in this election trying to make it into the runoff so that he can be the governor of Georgia. So very curious that he doesn't want you to come in and observe the counting of his very election. So the balance of the equities favors the candidates. The requested relief imposes no meaningful burden on Brad. Open the door. All it does is requires compliance with existing law and statutory obligations. The harm to the candidates and the public from denial of observation rights far outweighs any minimal administrative inconvenience, which is kind of my point. It's like, why would he just not comply with this and save himself all of this trouble? Like, what a joke. And we're pulling up the Kalshi right now for governor primary. Let's see. Georgia Republican governor primary over on the Kalshi markets. And yeah, Brad's like at 6% right now. So Burt Jones is up top on number 1. Rick Jackson is number 2. Raffensperger is number 3. And so he's probably going to get blown out today, rightfully so, because he's a joke. But he won't even allow any meaningful access, even though the law literally says you have to do that there, Brad. Now, the public interest strongly favors granting this, as it's now happened. Public confidence in the integrity of Georgia's elections, particularly when the chief election official is a candidate in the very election being administered, depends on robust, independent observation of tabulation and aggregation processes. And so petitioners have satisfied the requirements of Georgia law for the issuance of a TRO, a temporary restraining order without notice. Immediate and irreparable injury will result before Brad can come in and be heard. And lawyers for the candidates have certified the reasons why notice should not be required, given the extreme time sensitivity of Election Day. So the judge says, it is hereby ordered that the candidate's request for a TRO is granted. And now, effective immediately upon issuance of this order and continuing through the close of election, Brad Raffensperger, loser, in his official capacity as Secretary of State, and his officers, agents, servants, employees, attorneys, and all persons in active concert with him who receive actual notice of this order are hereby ordered to do the following. You are prohibited from excluding or restricting properly designated poll workers from observing tabulation, aggregation, verification, reporting of anything at your bunker, election night reporting room, or any other facility where county results are processed, aggregated, verified or recorded on this beautiful day. You're also prohibited from excluding or restricting the state election board designated observers from doing the same. You also are directed to immediately instruct all staff, contractors, and county officials under your supervision to admit poll watchers and SEB state election board observers into these locations and give them reasonable proximity and vantage points. You can't shove them in a closet somewhere. Okay, they need to see this so that they can meaningfully observe all activities without interfering with the orderly conduct of the elections. You're directed to take all necessary steps to comply with Georgia law. It's further ordered, no bond is required, and this shall be in effect until May 28th. And so the court will conduct a hearing on this May 28th at 1 p.m. in front of a different judge. And then, Brad, you can show up and make your arguments known at that date, time, and location. So ordered today, fresh out of the oven, signed by the Honorable Earl Glanville out of Fulton County. And so Brad's blown out. Now, big win, of course, and it really begs the question, why would he not want anybody to be there? In an election that he's administering, in which he's a candidate, in which he's also not doing so hot, according to Kalshi, down at 6% in the polls. So celebrations of victory. Georgia GOP first chair, vice chair, called Shaylee Grubbs, said thank you to all who preserved this and persevered, rather. Chalk one up to the good guys, and we're happy to see it. Now, another representative called Clay Fuller, he is representing Georgia District 14 in the U.S. Congress, said, after the Georgia Brad refused to allow the State Board of Elections and other members to participate, I officially requested congressional observers to take part in the process as well, saying transparency is a must and Georgians deserve to have faith in their elections. And so he sent this one yesterday before the judge issued this order, but he sent this one up to the Congress, right, to the federal Congress, the House Administration Office. He says, hi, Chairman Brian Steele. You know, Article 1, Section 5 of the Constitution gives Congress the ultimate authority to be the judge of elections. Now, with the passage of the Confirmation of Congressional Observer Act, federal law makes clear that those constitutional provisions mean that states are required to allow congressional election observers to access, quote, any location where processing, scanning, tabulating, canvassing, recounting, auditing, or certifying is occurring. And as you know, there have been concerns, I'll say, in recent years about the administration of elections and the lack of transparency in my home state of Georgia. I believe all Georgians deserve to have confidence in election transparency, and as such, I request that you designate appropriate congressional election observers to monitor all elements of Brad's election, including election night and others. Having transparency is critical, and no one should be afraid of oversight. I look forward to your reply and stand ready to offer my staff to serve in this role if needed. So what we're seeing here, I think a big takeaway is that the Republicans are learning how to play. They're not just sitting back and just ignoring, well, I guess we'll just have Brad come out and tell us what happened. They're actively getting involved, and they're not allowing the lack of transparency that permeated throughout 2020 to continue on, which of course is very good news. Now, one additional scam that's happening out of Georgia is of course involving Shamira. This woman and this woman are both running to be new Supreme Court judges to unseat current Supreme Court judges. Two ultra lefties who are fighting for abortion rights, have the endorsements of Obama and Michelle, also now have the endorsement of Kamala. Right here, she came out. She said, Georgia, you have a chance to send Miracle. And it's really hilarious. I think it's hilarious that they keep calling her Miracle Rankin. Okay, her name is Shamira. And here's from the court docket. You can see right here at the very top. Let me just save you the scroll. Her name is Shamira. Okay, it's not Miracle. But it's almost like they don't want the voters to know that her name is Shamira, because that has a little ethnic, overtone to it. So they just delete it, which I think's a little bit racist. I mean, what we do is honor her actual name here. It's Shamira. It's in the court filings. It's in the pleadings. I don't know why Kamala is trying to white out her name, essentially. They're all doing it. It's Miracle. Maybe that she goes by that. Okay, her name is Shamira. Honor your true birth name and just own it. But for some reason, they don't want the voters to know. So Miracle and Jen Jordan. And yeah, there's a little bit of a sham connotation to it. Almost like sham wow, like sham miracle. Maybe that's it. It's got a negative connotation to it, but it's her name. I don't know what this is bigotry from Kamala. You have the chance to send Shamira, Kamala, Rankin, and Sham Rankin, almost like rank. Yeah, it's bad. Jen Jordan to the Georgia Supreme Court. They are extraordinary leaders who will fight to protect your rights and uphold the rule of law. Now, as we learned, they sued these two ladies, Shamira and the others, back on April 30th. And this whole docket was just unsealed. All the court records were all unsealed. It was all sealed until the 11th Circuit came down. We read through the 11th Circuit's decision yesterday and recognized finally the truth of what happened here. And the 11th Circuit said the allegations were that these two ladies were violating judicial canon, judicial code of conduct, and taking positions on certain issues. Like if you elect us, we're going to bring back abortion. If you elect us, we're going to fight whatever. And not allowed to do that under Georgia law. The code of conduct exists. So somebody filed a complaint against both of them, and they sued immediately to stop any publication of the complaint. Because, of course, when they're in the middle of an election, they do not want the allegations that they're committing judicial misconduct before they've even taken office to come out and hamper their ability to win. So what's happened now, of course, is this whole docket has been unsealed. So if we remember, the emergency motion was filed by both of them. Her name is Shamira. It's right there. Back on April 30th, an emergency motion to seal the documents, seal the case. Don't let the Judicial Commission expose, our misdeeds. So it all took place. Everything was being filed. And look what happened. Look how convenient this is. Next day, May 1, the case gets assigned to Judge Leslie Gardner. Now, the judge, of course, her middle name is Abrams because she's the sister of Stacey Abrams, the person who got subpoenaed for fraud allegations and got billions of dollars from Joe Biden on the way out of his administration, which a lot was clawed back. But Stacey Abrams' sister is the judge who gets assigned to the case. And what do we know she did? Well, she sealed the case. She buried the whole thing. And so the docket continued to percolate in the middle of an election. This all got unsealed yesterday, okay? So these judges were hiding in the gutter, burying all of their information and misconduct behind the scenes so that the voters couldn't see any evidence of it. So the complaint hits, motion for expedited hearing, motion for temporary restraining order, summons go out. These are the people who are on the Judicial Commission board who are actually validating her complaint. Waiving service, response filed. Then there's an order. Then as we get closer, more orders, delay. Okay, the judge is just kind of keeping things. Atlanta Journal-Constitution, shout out to them. They tried to intervene here. Then we see as the docket continues, orders granting extension of time to file to seal the record. And then all of a sudden, we get the order from the judge, which buried it all down. Okay, so super long docket. Then we go right here. Here on May 15th, order grants the motion. Okay, so she stalls it out, spends a couple weeks, just, brief it. Then grants the motion like 4 days before the election occurs, knowing that it's going to take some time to appeal any of this and to get it reversed. So burying it all under briefs, then grants the seal, order on the sealed motion. Boom, that same day, the Judicial Commission files an appeal on the 15th. Then the appeal, of course, as we read yesterday, came back down. And then they were ordered, Judge Abrams, who is Stacey Abrams' sister in Georgia is ordered to unseal the case. It's crazy. So then the 11th Circuit comes down. We saw that docket right here from the 11th Circuit. And here, by the way, is the order from Abrams. So Abrams actually hit this one. And let me just show you that she signed this puppy. And she was making the argument that this is free speech. They're allowed to say whatever they want. And these allegations are not proven yet. So this is Stacey's sister here. And of course, here's what she looks like. We've seen this before. Stacey Abrams is the sister. And guess who appointed her to this position? Barack Obama did. And here is Stacey Abrams. You can see the resemblance without question. So they're definitely sisters. So she's there, issues the order to seal the whole case. Court of Appeals comes down and says, you're wrong. This is not sealable. Unseal it. And they did that. And then today or yesterday at the close of the day, then the same people, right? It's one, just here's the 11th Circuit official order that dropped, said the appellee's motion for an administrative stay is denied. The clerk's office, so after the 11th Circuit said unseal everything because the public has a right to know about this, they asked for an administrative stay to stop the unsealing. Then, just to show you just how sick these people are, then the clerk's is denied. So no, we're not going to stay this until after the election. It's a total election scam. Then they now get directed to unseal the order that was issued back on May 17th and make all this public so voters can know. It's the day before the election, man. And it's all happening. So they did keep it under seal for weeks. They kept all of the judicial complaints, all of the misconduct under seal. The voters never heard anything about it. Then they'll lecture us about democracy and about transparency and accountability and about how everyone else is a fascist when they're literally, it's like, out of Orwell. It's like the truth cannot be discussed because otherwise it's going to be damaging to them. And in Stacey's sister's order, she said the same thing, that your attempts to seal this is granted and defendants are enjoined. Do not issue any non-confidential public statements. Do not. You are enjoined. Stacey's sister says you are stopped from issuing any non-public information and don't release any of this stuff. And of course, they all got reversed on this by the 11th Circuit instantly. Then what happened is Shamira and her lawyers, and you can just follow the bouncing ball. Like, this is just crazy. Because if you come down here, what you'll see is then at the close of business yesterday, then the plaintiffs, Shamira and Jennifer, then they file a petition to unseal the record. It's already been ordered to be unsealed. There's not going to be any opposition to that at all. And now they're basically trying to save face and say, oh, well, I guess we lost, so now we're going to unseal everything so that they can come and claim transparency after the fact. This is the day before people are voting. And look at this guy right here, Roy Barnes. Look at this. This is the same guy who represents Fani Willis in her indictment case against her with her lover called Nathan's Hot Dog. So he's here and then he says, okay. Now, we are filing this. We did not talk to the Judicial Commission before filing this. We have been adverse on every issue, but the election is coming tomorrow. And so we don't think that the defense is going to oppose this. Of course not. They've been wanting to unseal all of this for a long time, given that the commission has already disclosed the underlying allegations. So now we'll unseal the docket, right? And so now they're like, no, okay, fine, unseal everything. After they've lost, it's the day before the election. So it's just total corruption. Stacey's sister protecting particular judges that Obama and Kamala want in there for Shamira. They violate the election rules in order to get elected. When somebody complains about it, Stacey's sister seals the whole thing up till the 11th Circuit comes back down and says unseal everything the day before the election. They are total scammers. It's really sick. So what else is happening now is, as we can see, we also have Big Fani, the biggest Fani in all of Georgia. She's also trying to disqualify one of the Georgia Court of Appeals judges. This guy's name is called Trent Brown, and she doesn't want him making any decisions on her cases because, as we know, she was already disqualified. Her lover was disqualified for the noxious odor of impropriety, which stinks, man. And so she submitted another motion to try to get rid of a particular judge. And she submitted this one in to disqualify Judge Brown. Judge Brown is now standing for re-election. And guess who Fani put up to run against him? It's wild. Will Wooten, right here. On March 5th, Will Wooten from the office of Fulton County said he's going to run against him. Now, the clerk of appeals entered orders that reassigns them from Judge Brown to other members of the court, but he's still involved in a couple of cases, this one judge. And this judge has said that apparently there's some articles about this from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution saying that I believe Fani Willis absolutely convinced my opponent to run against me. And who is Will Wooten? This guy right here. You may remember him from when Fani was illegally prosecuting President Trump and 18 other co-defendants in the case. Will Wooten is one of the prosecutors who was assigned to the RICO case, saying here he also does LGBTQ plus stuff and all these other things. And she assigned him to the Georgia election racketeering case, which was largely dismissed, went to the grand jury hearings and all the things. So then after Fani's getting blown out of the water because she was at least committing an appearance of impropriety by sleeping with Nathan Wade, texting him thousands of times, paying him $700,000, and then going on cruise ships with him and to Napa Valley to enjoy some wine and vino together. She then promotes Wooten to run against this guy and then turns around and files a motion to recuse the judge and doesn't want him on any cases. So now she's trying to disqualify somebody higher up in office there. It's just all like blood sport out there, and saying he's biased against Big Fani and saying that he thinks that Fani is trying to kick him off of the appellate court essentially and install one of her own little cronies up there. Wooten declared his judicial candidacy, and she files this. It's F. McDonald Wakeford. We've seen a lot of him. And again, it's Fulton County trying to just basically install an ally onto the courts so that Big Fani has a sister up there in Will Wooten, just like Stacey Abrams has a sister up on her courts. So it's incestuous, it's grotesque, but it's Fulton County and it's Georgia. And hopefully the voters tonight make their voices heard. And so here was more conversation about the institutional arsonists who are just perverting every single nook and cranny of America to support their endeavors. John Kennedy from Louisiana, nearby to Georgia, said, you know, the loon wing of the Democratic Party is still firmly in control. I still don't expect that to change. You can see what's happening in Georgia. That's why our secret plan, Operation Let Them Speak, should continue. Here is the senator from Louisiana posting this one today. Up 1 second. Let me swap the sound. My apologies. And this one, slight delay. But here we go.
Had a great line about all this a few days ago. House Speaker Mike Johnson had a great line about all this a few days ago. We're going to play it here.
These are institutional arsonists. It's a dangerous thing, a dangerous gambit. You don't just blow up the system when you lose. Remember, the Democrats started the mid-cycle redistricting.
And so I think the counterpoint there would be, if the institutions are generally unpopular, is it necessarily a bad thing being an institutional arsonist?
Well, look, the American people, my Democratic colleagues keep saying we want to destroy democracy, and then they go out and try to destroy democracy.
True.
This idea of packing the Supreme Court because you don't like the way they're ruling, that's one of those bad ideas that the vice president says don't exist. I think Speaker Johnson's absolutely right, and but that's what the loon wing of the Democratic Party, which doesn't represent all Democrats, but they're in control. That's what they stand for, and frankly, that's our best weapon. I mean, that's part of our strategy of Operation Let Them Speak. The more that Vice President Harris and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and Mayor Mamdani want to talk like they represent the party, which I think they do right now, the better it is for, the worse it is for America, but the better it is for the Republican Party. I say, let them speak, man.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's a lot of people out there who like what AOC and Mamdani have to say, and who every time Big Fani comes out and says something like, yeah, more Big Fani for me. But the point is, this is what they're up to. They want to not only pack the Supreme Court, but they want to pack the Georgia Supreme Court. They want to cover up any evidence of malfeasance. In order to do that, they've got all of their friends in high places. Big Fani's trying to take out Court of Appeals judges by launching her little underlings to run. You've got Stacey Abrams' sister, who is in federal court in a black robe, who is appointed by Obama, who's also facilitating the cover-up, and the scam continues. And so Georgia, fortunately, had a sane judge who blocked the attempt and issued a TRO that was stopping Raffensperger. And it's not just Republicans or Democrats either. There's also Republicans like Raffensperger and Brian Kemp, who was promoting Vic Reynolds and Judge McAfee and others into higher positions of power as long as they played ball, and they did. And of course, now people are wising up to the scam. People wised up in 2024. Trump got reelected in spite of the prosecutions, in spite of the election disqualifications, throwing him off the ballots, in light of the civil allegations brought by crazy ladies who paint their trees blue, and so on and so forth. And so we're grateful to see this starting at the local level. Greg Dolezal and other Georgia candidates with a big victory today. And that means elections will have a little bit more transparency in spite of the cover-up attempts by multiple people in positions of power out there. So we'll see what the results are. Thank you for joining and subscribing as we keep our eye on this election shenanigans scam attempt and many more, which are sure to come. All right, now we've got some big news out of Texas, and it's a big one that we've been waiting for. President Trump rocks the RINOs with a major endorsement out of Texas, and we've been waiting for this one. Ken Paxton getting the full head nod from America's favorite president. He said today, I am incredibly honored to have President Trump's complete and total endorsement. No one has ever fought harder for the American people than President Trump, and I look forward to championing his America First agenda in the Senate. And here's what the president said about this today. John Cornyn, blown out, one of the biggest RINOs in the Senate, having a bad day. He's joined by Susan Collins, who's whining about this today. And even the Senate Majority Leader, called John Thune, very sad about, oh no, what happened to this? Well, maybe if John Thune would have been harder on immigration, would have been more solid on the Save America Act, then that could have translated over into John Cornyn, their best friend. And they all love John. He's such a nice guy. And he's just so caring. And shut up. No one cares. And they could have delivered actual results for Americans. And then people like Bill Cassidy, who voted to impeach Trump, wouldn't have done that. And they could have gotten and continued to hold on to their jobs. But they're failing, and so now they get the boot, just like the other Republicans who are failing, who are going to get the boot. Now, Trump said, the highly respected Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, an America First patriot and someone who has always been extremely loyal to me and our amazing MAGA movement, is running for the United States Senate to represent a place I love and won big 3 times. With 6.4 million votes in 2024, the most votes in history in the state by far. Now, I know Ken well, have seen him tested in the highest and most difficult levels, and he is a winner. Ken is a strong supporter of terminating the filibuster. Were you on that one there, John? Anywhere? John Thune? John Cornyn? Either one of you? No. And very importantly, the Save America Act, which is like an 80-20 issue, for crying out loud. Something which polls at 87%, including by the Democrats, Trump's new name, and yet can't seem to get approved. Perhaps Ken can help me move these important elements of government forward, because with the filibuster as an example, the Democrats will terminate it on their first day in office. 100% true. The only reason they didn't do it last time, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona, both of whom got thrown out by the Democrats instantly for not following their orthodoxy. Now, they will also give us 2 extra states. They're going to make DC and Puerto Rico blue hellscapes into Senate endorsed states and greatly enlarge the Supreme Court of the United States, probably going with their dream number of 21 justices from the 9 that we currently have. And these new justices will be radical left lunatics, and we're going to be crushed, man. 21 judges. 2 years ago, our country was dead. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, and I want to keep it that way. Ken Paxton will help me do that, making America bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. He continues, he says, Ken is a true MAGA warrior who has always delivered for Texas and will continue to do so in the United States Senate. He will tirelessly fight to continue the great growth of our economy, cut taxes and regulations. I just delivered the largest tax and regulations cut in American history, by the way. And advance made in the USA, unleash American energy dominance, champion Texas oil and gas, advocate for our amazing farmers and ranchers, promote school choice, keep our borders secure, stop migrant crime, support our incredible military veterans, safeguard our elections, and protect our always under siege Second Amendment. Now, John Cornyn is a good man, and I worked well with him. But he was not supportive of me when times were tough. And despite having the most successful economy in the history of our country during my first term, with all of the many other things that I accomplished, secure border, military dominance, Space Force, all-time high stocks, 401ks, record job and economic growth, and so many other things that would be impossible to readily list, which are considered by many to be legendary, John was very late in backing me in what turned out to be a historic run for the Republican nomination. And then the presidency itself, both of which were landslide victories and, more importantly, gave us the country that we have today, the golden age of America. And when we finish up with Iran, which will not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, parentheses, you will see numbers that have never been generated by our country before, as opposed to the disaster of the previous administration. And so big endorsement. There were some people saying, what's taking so long, Trump? Is he going to go the other way? He didn't. He was just waiting, almost like a show of The Apprentice or something. But beautiful decision and a very well articulated rationale for doing so. Now, Brandon Gill, another rep from Texas, said, President Trump just endorsed Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton, let's go. I proudly supported Ken in the Texas Senate primary because we need to change the Republicans that we sent to the Senate. True. Now it's time for all of us to unite and focus our efforts on defeating James Six Genders Tallarico. And we remember what happened when certain people like, Carrie Lake, who are not favored candidates in the Senate, get the nomination. They get the rug cut out from under them. They wrecked her. They spent tens of millions of dollars in other ridiculous races. And that was a Mitch McConnell strategy, who was just moving the money around from the SRCC, Senate Republicans, Congressional committee funds. Tens of millions of dollars could have gone to Carrie Lake, but they didn't. They repurposed those for other races that they thought were, more beneficial, and she got left hung out to dry. So that better not happen here this time. We better not see John Thune and Murkowski and McConnell, and I think there's other people like Britt, all love Cornyn. They all love the guy. They better rally around Ken Paxton. John Cornyn should drop out and endorse him, but he won't. In fact, here's what he said. Now, I have worked closely, this is John Cornyn, with President Trump through both of the presidential terms and voted with him more than 99% of the time. He has consistently called me a friend in this race. It is now time for Texas Republican voters to decide if they want a strong nominee to help our GOP candidates down ballot and defeat Tallarico in November, or a weak nominee who jeopardizes everything we care about. I trust Republican voters of Texas. John, not going anywhere. Scott Pressler said, all you have to do is pass the SAVE Act. And you didn't do that because you're weak and pathetic. And of course, that is how he's going to hang on. But here is John Thune, who, again, really can't get anything done. He's like, well, we just don't have the votes. I tried real hard. Can't figure it out. Can't pass the SAVE Act. said, how personally disappointed or frustrated are you with the president's decision to endorse Ken today? He said, Cornyn is a principled conservative, but we can't control Trump. Here's John with a little bit of an extra sour scowl on his face today after the big news.
Given that you've spent months trying to encourage, persuade the president to endorse John Cornyn in the Texas primary, and given that the NRSC has invested heavily to help Cornyn win that primary, how personally disappointed or frustrated are you with the president's decision to endorse Ken Paxton today?
Well, I think you all know my position on this issue. I've made it very clear for months now. And
yeah, you did.
Senator Cornyn is a principled conservative. He is a very effective senator for the state of Texas. And but none of us control what the president does. He made his decision about that. That doesn't change the way I feel. I am certainly supportive of, will continue to be supportive of Senator Cornyn in his reelection.
How much harder if he made it to keep the majority? How much harder has the president's decision here made it for you? The number one job to keep the Republican majority, given your concerns about Ken Paxton's viability as a candidate.
We look at lots of races around the country, and the majority runs through a lot of different states. We have 24 seats up this time. The Democrats have only 9, so we've got a lot more ground to defend. We also have a couple of offensive opportunities. So, one state doesn't determine the outcome of this election, but obviously we care about every state, and we care about helping see our incumbents succeed. That being said, I feel very good about where we are. As I've said before, I think when it comes to winning elections, it starts with quality candidates. Then you got to have a record of accomplishment to run on. You've got to have resources to get that message out, tell that story to the American people. And then you've got to have a really substantial effort to get out the vote, a ground game. And I feel confident in all those elements in all the key states where we're going to have competitive elections this year. And I'm very confident we'll hang on and maybe even expand the majority of the United States Senate, which is counter, I know, to the, sort of the narrative these days. But the truth of the matter is we've got the right candidates in the right places at the right time and with the right resources. We're going to win some races.
All right, so it sounds like they're going to continue to dump a bunch of good money after bad. Cornyn did not obviously get the endorsement from President Trump, but they're going to continue to support him, which means they're going to fund him and use their resources for that, which will draw out the primary, create more bad blood between the primary voters, maybe turn it into a Massey Galrain situation. So now Ken has a bunch of very angry Cornyn voters that he needs to come vote for him, or vice versa, which I don't think is a very smart strategy. We've seen how that's worked out before. So maybe they should just say, we lost this one. We're going to follow the president. He's the leader of our party. Support Ken Paxton, stop another knife fight in the middle of a red primary. Let the Democrats do that. The Republicans don't need to do that, and move on. But they're not going to do that because they're bitter. And that's exactly what we saw in Arizona. It didn't work out. We got Ruben Gallego now, who's maybe doing bong hits or beer bongs or whatever with sex freak pervert criminals like Eric Bang Bang Swalwell in hotel rooms. Don't know. That hasn't been validated yet, but they sure look alike. So that's what we got from Thune, who is very extra Thune-y today. Not a surprise. But we had this one posted today at 1:18, courtesy of Ken Paxton. He said, Cornyn also disappeared for a year, and he's going to be going away in about 7 days at a campaign rally. Here's Ken Paxton explaining.
He loves Donald Trump. Not. John Cornyn fought Donald Trump's election in 2016, said he was an albatross around our neck. And in 2024, he said his day has passed. Now, he didn't realize he was talking about himself, not Donald Trump.
Ooh.
But he spent $100 million and now probably another 30, 40 to say terrible things about me that are not true. And then to convince you, they think they can convince you that he's something that he's not. The real John Cornyn is coming back after the election. As soon as his primary is over, we will see the real John Cornyn again. He disappeared for a year while I campaigned against him. But the fake John Cornyn is going away in about 7 days. 7 days. The fake John Cornyn is coming back.
Yeah, they all do it. It's like Tom Tillis and the rest of them on their way out. They just burn the house down. And We've seen how they've treated the president and people on our side of the aisle who want actual progress from the Republican Party that doesn't involve, like Langford, who's approving 5,000 illegal aliens invading a day, or John Cornyn and their amnesty approaches and so on and so forth. Now they are losing, and they're going to have a hissy fit about it, just like they did in Arizona. We can already see it coming. So what has Ken been up to? Well, over the last week or so, a bunch of big wins, saying, I am investigating the Dallas County Sheriff for sanctuary policies and demanding that the Dallas County Sheriff comply with Texas law by seeking an agreement to actually assist ICE in enforcing federal immigration law. Nice. Saying, now he sent a letter over to Marion Brown demanding that she work with ICE, which is what we want to see, that type of energy in the Senate. He said, I will not allow the people of Dallas County to suffer because the sheriff refuses to work with ICE to keep violent illegals off our streets. Texas law requires that sheriffs seek a formal agreement with ICE to help stop illegal immigration. My office will ensure that this woman, Marion, complies with the law and that ICE is assisted to the fullest extent possible under the law. And asked that she respond immediately. And that's just one nice development. Here's another one. He also just sued yesterday a school operating as Texam for offering unauthorized degrees and misleading Texas. He sued Texas American Muslim University, called Texam, for calling itself a university. It's not a university. They've never been issued a certificate of authority to operate a private post-secondary institution. Despite lacking any authorization, they've now advertised bachelor's and master's degrees and solicited money. This nonprofit also, and their charter was forfeited and remains forfeited. So a cease and desist letter was also sent, and they've adopted branding and a name that's confusingly similar to Texas A&M. It's called Texam for Muslims. Texam has repeatedly disregarded Texas law, misrepresented its authority, can't actually get degrees, and is trying to pretend like it's Texas A&M, and it isn't. There are 3 defendants associated with their operations, Shahid, Bilal, and Arsalan, and he's seeking to stop their unauthorized operations. He also wants to recover $1 million for violations of the education code. He filed a lawsuit, and so that is making its way through the courts as well. And another one saying that he makes history by securing a landmark healthcare fraud settlement that creates the nation's first ever detransition clinic to save our kids who had lopidecophamies, and secures $10 million from Texas Children's Hospital for transitioning kids. Those people should be in jail. AG Paxton secured a historic settlement that compels the creation of the country's first ever detransition clinic, requires the hospital to pay $10 million for billing Texas Medicare for unallowable and illegal gender transition interventions. They use false diagnosis codes to butcher your children and compels the termination and revocation of other privileges. Now, after a years-long investigation, Paxton has negotiated a historic settlement. The detransition clinic will help patients reverse the damage that was caused by ideologically motivated physicians who harmed the kids. For the first 5 years, all services provided will be funded by the Texas Children's and be free of charge to patients at the detransition clinic. Texas Children's has also agreed to fire, permanently and irrevocably terminate all existing privileges and never again hire or credential 5 woke doctors who perform these harmful medical interventions. Oh my gosh. As part of the settlement, Texas Hospital also agrees to not provide any of these services, will implement a host of compliance and ethics measures. And I personally believe that if you do this to a child, it should be a crime, just like contributing to the delinquency of a minor, or just like solicitation of a minor, or just like, basically talking to a kid about sex. That's now become essentially a free speech right, but You get the point. It's like child abuse, an analog, in my opinion. So we're happy to see some of this happening. Take away their credentials and make sure they can never do this again. It's a morally bankrupt transgender ideology. It's like soliciting children for your sexual perversions and for your disgusting ideology, and it makes my blood boil. So fortunately, Ken can go up to the Senate and make these same arguments and represent Texas in that body so that these things can be ensconced in federal law. JD Vance was asked about this today. Hey, JD, turns out the president just endorsed John Cornyn. What do you have to say about that? I'm sorry, Ken Paxton, not John Cornyn. John Cornyn, hopefully, loses handily and just bows out of the race. We don't need a big, drawn-out, bloody primary there, John. You didn't get the endorsement. You could have acted differently. You took a swing at the king, President Trump. You missed, and now you have to suffer the consequences. So just stand by gracefully. Well, yeah, he won't. But here's JD asked about this today.
Mr. Vice President, thank you. Today we saw the president endorse Ken Paxton over John Cornyn in the Texas Senate race. Do you think that sends a message going forward for the next cycle to senators, considering running for re-election, or any mega-aligned potential candidates that are considering challenging them?
Well, I'd say a couple things, Nick. First of all, I think the president's very gratified by the response that he's heard from the base and from a lot of voters, I think, who are passionate about Ken Paxton. We think Ken Paxton is going to be a great senator for the people of Texas, but most importantly, a great United States senator who can work on solving the problems that all of us confront as a country together. I've known John Cornyn for a long time, but unfortunately, when it really counted, Ken Paxton was there for the country, was there for the president, and that's why he ultimately earned the president's endorsement. He thinks he's going to be a better senator, thinks he's going to make a better candidate, and so I do think it sends a message, but really not just the endorsement, but one of the things the president has done very effectively, going back 10 years in his leadership of the Republican Party and the country as president of the United States, is he said, I want people who fight for the good. I want people who can't be bought by corporate lobbyists, who can't be bought by Wall Street, who can't be bought by special interests, who are going to go to Washington and fight for the people who actually elected them to those positions. And I think one of the things we've seen in the Republican Party, while I can't say that all of our representatives are perfect or all of our senators are perfect, we have seen a much better crop of talent come into Washington since Donald Trump has been the leader of the party and the leader of the movement. I do think we're going to continue to see that happening. But I think the message that people should take from this is fundamentally, you have got to serve the people who sent you. And if you don't do that, you're going to find yourself out of step with voters or out of step with the president of the United States. And that's not a good place to be politically.
That's right. And John could have made a different decision multiple times over. He didn't do it. He thought he was going to have the protection of the establishment, and that maybe even the endorsement of President Trump, just kind of hang on long enough, smear Ken as hard as he could, make him unpalatable to the rest of the Texan electorate and say, I'm the more safe choice, right? There maybe is a risk that Tallarico beats Ken Paxton, is his argument, and that you have to elect me. I'm the safe choice, but didn't play out. So he made his gamble. He lost the bet, and now it's time for him to step aside so that we don't have to go through another blood sport in a Republican primary so that we can actually beat Tallarico. So we're happy to see it happen. Great endorsement, tremendous victory, and good development in the Texas race. So we're going to keep our eye on this one, but the RINOs don't lay down easily. We saw what they did to Kerry Lake and others. If you don't play along with the establishment in the Senate, you lose all the benefits. So John Thune also should be held to the same standard. He should also encourage Cornyn to step aside. Don't spend the money on a failed primary challenge so that we can keep and control the Senate. We'll see if that happens as our coverage here continues. Thank you for subscribing during this election season as we keep our eye on this one. All right, one more update, my friends, and then we'll hear from you. Wild situation developing out of Maryland, and the president is now weighing in on this. Hundreds of thousands of ballots have been sent out to people who really can't do anything with them, allegedly. They're not supposed to vote on them. They're supposed to just destroy them using the honor code. And the president has caught notice of this, saying, We need to pass the Save America Act because of this problem. We'll come back to the story from the president, but here's what Fox News reported, saying a ballot blunder is now triggering the GOP to unleash lawsuits to get the voter rolls. We know that the Harmeet Dillon Civil Rights Division has already been embarking on this, but this has now shaken Maryland. They're reporting that 400,000 primary voters got a ballot of the wrong party this weekend, which is a curious thing because that means they may be voting for the wrong party, thinking that this is all their choices are. And when the correction comes down later after the fact, they may not get notice of that. They may have said, I already voted. I don't need to look at this again. And so their votes won't count at all. Their votes will be suppressed, happening in a blue state by a blue governor. And they're trying to make it as though there's nothing there. But the president is saying, maybe we should have the DOJ look into this. A Maryland primary ballot mix-up has renewed Republican calls for a federal review. The gov needs to step in here to review the voter rolls. Some of the 400,000 primary voters who wanted a mail-in ballot got the wrong party. Joe Gruters, who is the RNC chair, who is now also unleashing, according to him, an onslaught of lawsuits, 100+ lawsuits, dozens of different states, to fight back against the Democrats who are doing the same. We've seen this many times over here. The Retired Alliance of Americans, or of Michiganders, the League of Women Voters, all of them in various states have their own little entities. They're suing to challenge the election rules, just like they did in 2020, to try to pervert them into their favor. He said, this kind of election mismanagement is why the RNC is already suing them for failing to clean their rolls. They say our lists are perfect, okay? Our election processes are immaculate. There are no problems that you should concern yourself with. Then hundreds of thousands of ballots apparently go out for the wrong party. Marylanders deserve answers after this unacceptable failure. The RNC and the Maryland GOP are demanding transparency on how it happened. Who will receive the replacement ballots? What safeguards will be used to prevent duplicate voting? And what safeguards are there for the election? Now, in response, the RNC and Maryland are expanding our Protect the Vote operations with voter hotlines, legal oversight, and voter education across the state. Similarly, Maryland's Conservative Freedom Caucus has also demanded that state election officials release Maryland's voter rolls, give them up to the federal government for an audit after a vendor error forced the state to resend thousands of mail-in primary ballots, saying the Maryland Freedom Caucus is calling on the Secretary of the Election Board, a guy called Jared DeMarinis, to immediately release the voter rolls to the federal government so that a proper audit can be conducted to determine the sources of the mistake. We caution against issuing another 400,000 ballots, and we demand to know how the state intends to differentiate between the first set of 400,000 and the second printing of those. The citizens have a right to know the exact process by which the ballots will be scrutinized, saying with 400,000 double ballots, so the first printing and the second printing in circulation, we need to be absolutely sure that there is one vote, one person. Now, the group claimed that the mistake undermines the confidence in the primary. They're pointing their fingers at the Democrat and the State Board of Elections, saying the Maryland Democrats and the bureaucrats over at the Board of Elections have proven once again that they are the biggest purveyors of voting suppression in the state of Maryland. And you might get a ballot, think you voted on it, and not want to vote again on the actual real ballot. So your vote doesn't count. Now, after it was brought to light that roughly 400,000 mail-in ballots were sent out incorrectly, voters who received these flawed ballots will now get a second ballot, according to the state. Many people's mail-in votes could be erroneously submitted using the old ballot and their vote suppressed because of the negligence of Maryland, all governed by Democrats. Now, the state administrator of elections, called Jared DeMarinis, said Friday that he was, quote, diligently working to eliminate doubts about any of this. He said, mail-in voting is an integral facet of the electoral process. With over 500,000 voters requesting these, We want to eliminate any doubt in its integrity or accuracy. Maybe just don't do that and just make people go vote. Now, that is why I have arranged the sending of replacement ballots. So now double ballots go out. He said, please be assured that we are actively answering phones and responding to emails and will remain transparent as we navigate this situation. We will make every effort to ensure that everyone affected knows the situation and how to cast their ballot. Yeah. Every vote matters. 500,000 people. Every vote matters. Your voice will be heard. Our elections will remain open, verified, transparent, and secure. Yeah. Another administrative error. Now, the company behind it is called Taylor Print and Visual Impressions. They're the vendor. They admitted the error and they apologized. They said, a portion of voters received ballot packets intended for a different voter segment. We understand. So we understand the seriousness of this matter and the importance of accuracy and trust in all election-related communications. So it's like everybody gets a Democrat ballot. Is that what we're reading? Notably, all ballots will be remailed according to the vendor, which is leaving it up to the recipients to destroy the first ballot that they received. Okay. Voters should securely discard and destroy the original ballot materials they received and use only the replacement ballot sent in the new mailing. There is no risk of duplicate voting as a result of this, they said. Just to be clear, election officials have safeguards in place to ensure that only the corrected ballots included in the replacement mailing will be accepted and counted. Yeah, right. Remember, they don't disqualify ballots. We saw this in 2020. They do everything they can. They don't want to disenfranchise a vote. So what happens if one person, grandma, who's a nice lady, who's at home, she votes on the bad ballot. That bad ballot shows up at a polling place. They say, oh, it's an old ballot. Oh, let's check. Did she submit a new ballot? No, she didn't. But she voted on this one. Are you going to disenfranchise her vote? She's grandma. The answer, of course, is no. They're not going to do that. They're going to count that ballot. And she may be voting on the wrong ballot. She may not even know. So that's one vote that shouldn't go where it's supposed to go. It's voter suppression. This happened in 2020. Well, I don't know. The signatures don't match, but it's COVID, and they actually changed the rules because of COVID because they wanted everybody to go vote. So the error-affected ballots requested and mailed before May 14th, more than a month before the June 16th deadline. Voters who requested web-delivered ballots, which can be downloaded, printed, and mailed, were not affected. The latest issue only increases Republicans' election scrutiny in the state. The RNC had already been active in the state's voter rolls, suing in December for Maryland because they failed to properly maintain their rolls to comply with federal law, pointing to registration figures that they say are implausibly high, saying Marylanders deserve to have confidence in their elections. The state board failed to do its job. They failed to remove dead people and ineligible voters. And we have a right to accurate rolls. That's why we're suing. The complaint also alleged that at least two of Maryland's most populous counties have more registered voters than adult citizens. Incredible. More registered voters than people who can vote. Wild. While other counties report registration rates at 95%, despite census data showing that Maryland's statewide registration rate is about 75%. So some counties, 95% of the people registered to vote. The RNC said federal law requires states to update their rolls, remove ineligible people, allow public inspection of the rolls, saying you have repeatedly fallen short. The suit followed similar actions in many other states throughout the country. Harmeet Dillon is leading the charge on that. So Trump caught wind of this. He said, we have to pass the SAVE Act for crying out loud. What more is it going to take? Use the housing and the FISA bills to get it done for crying out loud, saying Maryland just had 500,000 fake mail-in ballots revealed. We cannot, as a country, put up with this any longer. 3 exclamation points, and I couldn't agree more. Voter ID and proof of citizenship must be approved now. Crooked mail-in voting must be stopped. 3 exclamations. Put it all in the housing and FISA bills, okay? Do whatever. Make America great again, sign President Trump. He said another post about this, 2 posts. He said in Maryland, they sent out 500,000 illegal mail-in ballots and they got caught. So now they're going to send out 500,000 more. But nobody knows what's happening with the first 500,000. They already sent that out. How much did that cost, by the way? In addition, many of these ballots went to Democrats. So any Republican running in Maryland doesn't have a chance because they vote twice. This was done by the corrupt governor of the state called Wes Moore. He allowed this to happen in order to make sure that Democrats win. It never made any sense to me that Maryland was considered an automatic Democrat state, but now I see why. I'm sure this has gone on for years. I'm going to ask the Attorney General of the United States and the DOJ to bring an immediate investigation into the situation. Signed, President Donald J. Trump. So Trump was asked about this at a press briefing by the media, and here is what he had to say.
A lot of Republicans, including you, are speaking out against a massive mail-in ballot era in Maryland primary election.
Terrible.
How concerned are you about election integrity as Americans are heading into the midterms?
I'm very concerned about it. I'm very concerned about mail-in ballots. We're the only country in the world that's doing mail-in ballots, and a mail-in ballot is, by just the nature of it, it's going to be corrupt. So many people handle it. You go into a well-run voting booth in a certain state, we'll pick a state, but you go into, and I mean, they look, even me, I went in Florida and went to vote, and they said, "Sir, I hate to do it. I'm so embarrassed. Could I see your identification?" I said, "Really? Do you really want to do that? Please, sir. I'll lose my job if I don't do it." I was very proud to hand her identification.
Pull out the wallet.
Everything else. I mean, you want to have proof of citizenship. You want to have a voter ID. You want to have all these things. But to me, maybe the worst of all is the mail-in ballots where they come in. So, as you know, in Maryland, 500,000 fake ballots were sent out. When they were caught, they said, "Oh, we'll pull them back." And they issued 500,000 new ballots. And as you know, they never got the original ballots back. So there are 1 million ballots out there. Many of them went to Democrats, and it's a very serious thing. And I'll tell you, I've looked at Maryland for a long time, and I know Maryland pretty well. And I was told that it's automatically a Democrat state. And I don't believe that, because I think I did really well there, and I don't believe it. But they issued, as you just got caught recently, 500,000 ballots, illegal ballots were sent out, and they were totally fraudulent. And then they said, "Oh, we'll pull them back." Well, they didn't pull them back, and they have 500,000 new ballots go. So what happens to the original? Are they going to come in, and are they going to come in and infect our system? So it's a very, very serious thing that's happened, and I've asked the law enforcement to look at it very, very strenuously.
All right, we'll see what happens with the DOJ and whether they do that or not. But here was Joe Gruters, and he's explaining, we have launched over 100 lawsuits. We're working in multiple states, and we're going to be fighting back against the fraud in our upcoming elections.
Well, listen, the president, when he asked me to take this position, he said we got to make sure our elections are safe and secure. We have to continue to build on the success that Laura Trump and Michael Whatley built in the 2024 cycle. And yes, the Democrats are trying to cheat every single day. That's why we have to have 130 lawsuits. We're bringing the hammer wherever we can. 32 states where we have lawsuits because the Democrats are trying to cheat every single day. It doesn't matter if it's redistricting. It doesn't matter if what they've done is they've allowed tens of millions of illegals to come across our border, and they're trying to figure out ways to get them to vote. And that's why we're always after making sure we have integrity in the system, that we can have confidence in the democracy, and we're putting people in place. We already hired staff in 17 states, but we're going to continue our strong litigation effort to make sure we beat back these Democrats and their efforts that have been ongoing for decades in terms of trying to steal elections.
That is great news, because it has been going on for decades. They've built institutions around this, entire money pits of billionaires just dumping funds into Democracy Docket or States United Democracy Center or Citizens for Responsible Ethics in Government, whatever. All Democrat operatives who are installing people like Stacey Abrams' sister onto the federal courts. We have Jocelyn Benson, who gets sued by blue people, blue on blue violence. Then all of a sudden they enter into settlement agreements. Blue judges approve those settlement agreements. Our whole elections are usurped via a settlement agreement. So that is very good news. We're happy to see that from the RNC. And what we're also learning is that the fraud continues on in the terms of money as well. And the Southern Poverty Law Center was out there making their little death lists while they're also attacking Republican individuals, guys like Charlie Kirk, who were apparently violent extremists and people who are worthy of scorn and criticism. Meanwhile, they were using their own funds in order to prop up and pay the white supremacists. So we have a status update in this case. Of course, they have been indicted now. And we got an update from the court saying we have the Southern Poverty Law Center entering a plea of not guilty. And guess who again came in to represent them? Abby Lowell, the same guy who represented Hunter Biden and represents many other Democrats out there. So we have another pretrial conference in the Southern Poverty Law Center case that will be back on August 19th, 2026 at 1 p.m. by video conference. We've got a trial scheduled in the SPLC case, October 5th, 2026, before the final election. And I'm sure there'll be some interesting things coming out on this. We got pretrial motions are going to be due. Discovery should be starting. And this is the status update as of the 18th of May, courtesy of Kelly Fitzgerald, the magistrate judge out there in the Middle District of Alabama. So all of that, of course, will bring more scrutiny on one of those Democrat operations that we've learned a lot about recently. And we're seeing here that they're still very upset about the Supreme Court decision, which said you're not allowed to draw racist maps anymore. Okay, enough of that. You guys have had your way with the maps. You've created separate but equal districts for certain ethnicities and certain people in order to really ensconce yourselves in perpetual power, using race as an excuse to do that. But we don't do that anymore. We're not buying the arguments that, oh, you know, this group of people deserve their own drinking fountain and they'll be better off if they have it. Okay, that's racist bigotry crap. Not anymore. So Ted Cruz was getting into it today, and sex freak senator from Hawaii called Hirono was not happy about it. And at the end of this clip, she snaps back at him and then he snaps back at her. A lot of fun. Here's Ted Cruz today.
The Democrats are fond of telling this story that is, and I wish I could find a kinder way to say it, a flat out lie.
True.
That without discriminating based on race, that no African Americans will be elected and no Hispanics will be elected. Indeed,
Right.
There was one fellow online who was a vocal left-wing spokesperson who tweeted out, "If I'm advising anybody to run for president, they sure as hell better have a solution to how you make sure that it's not another 100 years before another black person can represent South Carolina." So that's a typical Democrat statement, that we cannot elect a black person in South Carolina without discriminating based on race. I want to ask you, Mr. Chamberlain, who is the junior senator from South Carolina right now?
That would be Tim Scott.
And all right, I'll tell you what I said online. I said, hey, Grok, who is Tim Scott? And why do Democrats think he isn't black? And by the way, was Tim Scott elected because of a gerrymandered district drawn only to elect an African-American?
No, he won statewide.
He won statewide. By the way, the Democrat position is you can only elect African-Americans with a gerrymandered district. I will point out Burgess Owens, an African-American, is elected in a majority white district in the state of Utah. He's a Republican. Byron Donalds, another African-American, is elected in a majority white district in Florida. He is a Republican. John James, another African-American, is elected in a majority white district in Michigan. He is a Republican. And my own congressman, Wesley Hunt, who represents me in the House of Representatives, he is elected in a majority white district. He is a Republican. And yet, in the Democrats' world, you're not black if you're not a liberal Democrat.
It's true.
There is an arrogance
You ain't black,
to
said Joe.
African-American voters. By the way, they also have that same arrogance to Hispanic voters. They say you're not Hispanic if you're not a liberal Democrat. Well, I'll tell you, I am proud to be the first Hispanic ever elected to represent the state of Texas in the United States Senate. And Mr. Chamberlain, In my election in Texas, was I elected in a gerrymandered district that could only elect an Hispanic?
No, you were elected statewide.
Yeah.
Discrimination based on race is wrong. Final question. The Democrats are now clutching their pearls that seats drawn to elect liberal Democrats in the South are going to go away. You may get black Republicans instead. Indeed, in Tennessee, they're freaking out that a liberal white guy who's a Democrat is likely going to lose his seat to an African-American woman who's a Republican, and they say that's horrible racial oppression. My final question is this. If you look nationwide, which party has egregiously abused gerrymandering for decades? Both parties are guilty of it, but who has been the worst offender? And in particular, take New England. Take Massachusetts, take Connecticut, take Rhode Island, take Maine, take Vermont, take New Hampshire. How many Republicans are elected from all of New England in the House of Representatives?
I think the answer to that is zero.
Zero. They've drawn every district in a naked gerrymander, and yet they're very upset that their illegal pursuit of power has now been stopped by the Supreme Court that is enforcing the Constitution and prohibiting the racial gerrymandering and discrimination their party is built on.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
Chairman, part of personal privilege.
Here she goes.
Sure. I feel personally aggrieved to sit here and to be lectured by my colleague from Texas. And this reminds me of the time when he was first elected to the Senate and the Judiciary Committee had a hearing on gun safety, and he felt a need to lecture Dianne Feinstein, who was a leader on gun safety legislation, and he took that opportunity to lecture Dianne Feinstein about gun safety and her leadership on the issue. And she said to him something along the lines of, I did not sit here under this committee for however many years she did, only to be lectured by you. And that is how I feel. So why don't you just stop lecturing the rest of us? Just because you think you are the smartest person in the world doesn't mean the rest of us agree to that. Okay? Thank you.
Senator Hirono,
Senator,
I knew Dianne Feinstein. I served with Dianne Feinstein, and you're not Dianne Feinstein.
All right, Senator Padilla. We're done. Senator.
Watch.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First,
Mike leans over.
Before I get to a couple questions I want to ask. Number one, appreciate a little history reminder of it.
Great. So, yeah, sex freak Hirono, you're not Dianne Feinstein. And her whole comment was basically just repeating what Dianne Feinstein had to say. I remember when she said this about you, and I'm going to take her statement and say it against you too, because I can't think of anything else to say. It's not a lecture. You're personally aggrieved. You're a senator on the committee. It's not a lecture. He's asking questions. You guys ask questions all the time. She's ridiculous, but that's why she usually sticks to the sex questions, because she really can't do much else. So speaking of racial oppression, here was a Chicago woman who does an amazing Democrat voice. Okay, we like to do Democrat voices. Usually like this, kind of like that. Hers is pretty good. It's pretty up there. And she, of course, Colin Rugg clipped this one, said, we're not being oppressed, okay? Stop screaming about black people who can't go vote, okay? You guys are being ridiculous. Here is what happened in Cook County late last week.
The reality is this. Black people's voting is not in danger, and you know it's not. And you know it's not. I'm 63 years old. I've been voting since I was 8.
Volume's a little quiet on this one. My apologies. Let me see if I can just refresh it and boost it up a little bit, but I think it was recorded very quietly. So let me boost this all the way up, see if it works. Here is what she had to say.
The reality is this. Black people's voting is not in danger, and you know it's not. And you know it's not. I'm 63 years old. I've been voting since I was 18. I have never had a problem voting. Now, that may apply to my mother and father. It applies to my grandparents. Surely it does. And in fact, because it does, every single person in this room, including that Jewish lady that just got up and talked, need to really be thanking us. Really need to be thanking us for getting y'all the right to vote, for getting y'all the right to be here, instead of sitting up here manipulating the Voting Rights Act like something's getting ready to happen to our right to vote, when you know that's not true. So now you all gonna drag black people in here, definitely some senior citizens, and gonna have them come up here and talk about how they scared to vote, how this messed up their right to vote, women need to vote, all that junk.
Nice.
When you know it's not true. Just like you sit up here and make like black people can't get IDs. Us requiring IDs to vote. It's going
Kamala.
to stop black people from voting. Why black people ain't got IDs? See, you all get more and more ridiculous. But you can't, in this room full of these black people, talk about that federal case that just got filed Monday that's talking about how you all are stealing property at Cook County sales. Where the black people in here? Raise your hand that if they told you to come in here to talk about how your property got stolen. Where you at? Huh? Because we got commissioners in here that know for a fact it's happening. Catskill, you know it's happening. Lori, you know it's happening. Michael Scott, you know it's happening. Lamont Williams, come on, you give up cases for the county. You know it's happening. Donna Miller, you know what's happening. Well, come on, y'all black people that they done sent here with these 501c3s, that they got y'all in here talking for them. Why y'all ain't in here talking about how they stealing our property?
1 minute.
Where y'all at? Come on, because y'all getting ready to come up here to this mic and lie for the cameras to say that black people's voting is done by this Louisiana thing and Donald Trump and the Trump administration, when Donald Trump is in front of the Supreme Court right now, fighting for the 14th Amendment, saying that black people, that amendment was for black people.
30 seconds.
Not for birthrights, not for people to anchor themselves over here illegally. And they got y'all black people in here getting ready to talk against him. I mean, y'all real sick up in the head.
True.
You're sick in the head and more sicker in your spirit. This is insane.
Time has expired for the speaker. Next
Y'all
speaker,
crazy.
Taiwan Sim.
Amazing. And I remember Kamala. Why can't people get IDs? Well, people in rural areas just can't go figure them out. You know, it's too complicated for them, which is some of the most racist crap you've ever heard in your life. And so I really appreciated her Democrat voice. I give it, 9.5 out of 10 if I could. It's pretty good. So that's the truth. And the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, anchor baby stuff, of course, she's also right about that too. So shout out to her. People are saying she's on YouTube. Let's go. That's what we need to hear, because they like to say that all people of certain colors and ethnicities and persuasions are all the same. It's the most racist crap you've ever heard of. Put them all in a little district together because they can't think individually and they all do whatever everyone else does. It's like racist through and through. But they call us racist for saying, no, everybody just gets to go vote. We don't need to cordon people off and put them on separate but equal, put them in the back of the bus or something. But that's their whole friggin' party. If they don't have the ability to bundle constituencies up and then smash them together by promising each constituency things that they think are going to be attractive to that group in a stereotypical fashion, there is no Democrat Party. They lose everything. So tremendous, absolutely tremendous testimony. But this is anathema to their entire political existence and their power. So that's not going to get amplified across the mainstream media anywhere. But problems abound. We need to check the election lists. We need to ensure we have election integrity and verify why the lists are so problematic and why they're sending out 500,000 ballots to the wrong people. So we're going to keep our eye on all of this election fraud. Thank you for joining and subscribing as we do. All right. Now, I saw a super chat come through, and apparently Judge Glanville, the judge that we just talked about, who blocked the prohibition on the bunker, voided the TRO. Somebody is reporting this. This just broke not long ago. Let me see if I can piece this together here on the fly. Said breaking from WSB TV. Let's take a look to see what they have. WSTV Atlanta saying Let's see. Not seeing anything on their homepage. Uh-oh. Here are some headlines. Cobb County elections, technical issues with voting systems at some locations. All right, let me see if I can find this. So WSB TV, Glanville. So somebody reported this. Breaking. So Justin Gray, investigative reporter, said breaking news. Order voiding the TRO. This matter comes before the court on the order granting the TRO this morning. He just voided it. He said Dolezal and others did not comply with this section, and so therefore it's legally and procedurally void. Accordingly, the TRO is hereby voided, vacated, and dissolved, which means, I guess, the bunker is back in effect. Let me see what else is going on here. So let me share this one with you just so you can see what I'm looking at. Right here, courtesy of Justin Gray on X. He's posting this one. In the same case, looks real. 237 says this matter comes before the court, and it's OCGA 9-10-2. Let's see what this one says over here. Says basically, they didn't get advance notice saying it shall be void unless it affirmatively appears that as a matter of record that the AG was given 5 days advance notice, that the AG was present, or that the AG or an assistant AG waived the notice. That's it. So in other words, you cannot get an injunction against the state unless the AG had 5 days notice. What happens if it's within 24 hours? This is pretty crazy. So here's what this one also says, courtesy of Justia, which is articulating that rule right here. 9-10- what did he say? 2? 9-10-2. Yeah. So right here, that the AG or an assistant AG was present in person at the hearing. So because nobody was there, so in other words, the judge goofed. Like the judge issued a bad order and then it reversed it ultimately. So the chyron there looks like it's inaccurate now because he reversed himself, saying so now the so now the TRO against the respondent in his official capacity is legally and procedurally void. Accordingly, the TRO is vacated and dissolved. Whoa, you don't see that often. So the judge issued it and then reversed himself like instantly. All right, so that whole first segment looks like, well, not the whole thing, but that particular order has been reversed. Let's see if Dolezal has anything to say about that. That's pretty interesting. Here's an update. He said, nope, that's still before it all happened. So that was about noon today. So I don't know if they're going to get access or not to the building at the election tonight. Doesn't look like they have an order to go in there. So it sounds like Brad can once again invoke the bunker. Trying to piece together if there's any other news on this. But not seeing anything. Yeah. It is all the same news that we just covered before. So he may have reversed himself based on them not being there. But in his original decision, he just said that they had notice of it and they didn't show up. So in other words, they get the benefit of not showing up. They had the right. Brad Raffensperger, the judge just said he had the notice of the hearing and didn't show up. And then the judge says, okay, well, you lose by default, essentially. He may have just read the rule and said, I don't need to show up. There's nothing you can do against me because I needed 5 days. So as long as you wait within a 5-day window, then you can basically do whatever you want because there's not enough time or you just don't show to the hearing and you get the benefit of not showing to the hearing. What the hell did this judge just do to himself? That makes like no sense at all. And there's no other updates on that. So let's check Kevin Moncla. Yeah, nothing new there. So this is all looks like it's kind of brand new. Okay, 8 minutes ago, Georgia Record just published this. Eight minutes ago, okay, here's what this looks like. It's new. Okay, so from Georgia Record, exclusive statement from one of the petitioner lawyers on the secret bunker case. Regarding the decision to rescind its earlier ruling, he said, the lawyer said, when Judge Glanville called me earlier today and stated that he agrees with our interpretation of the law, that the secretary's compilation of results should be open to observation, while the state secured an additional 5 days, the court has set a short notice hearing for May 28. We expect to be successful in our efforts to compel him to admit observers and SEB members at his secret meetings where winners and losers are decided. Okay, so that's not really helpful at all. Okay, so I guess truth is it may not be in effect for tonight, but for the general election later down the line. Okay, so I think our Chiron is going to be accurate, but is not accurate right now. He blocked them and then reversed the block. But then they'll get 5 days. Yeah, because he cited subsection 2. But yeah, it's got to be 5 days. Shall be void unless it affirmatively appears as a matter of record either, so 1 or 2 or 3, that the AG or an assistant AG was present in person. They could have been there. They were not. So maybe under subsection 1, they say, now you've got 5 days notice written in advance. And then you don't show up. So it just happened too fast under Georgia law. Crazy. So sounds like Brad can then continue to block people today, kick them out, and they'll have to fight this later on the 28th. We'll come back. So that judge got somebody talked to him and he reversed himself. We just read through the whole thing saying you could have been there. He wrote all of this up and then just reversed himself on a technicality. Wild. Look, the respondents had an opportunity to respond, but did not. So now they can do whatever they want as long as you sue within 5 days. Like, so just make all of your election changes right at the last minute. And then as long as there's a 5-day window, then you can be immune from any lawsuits. Crazy. All right. So yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer. We were very excited about that at the opening part of the segment, but these things happen. So Raffensperger wins. Georgia election tonight. Apparently can still use the bunker. All right. Well, thank you for the heads up on that. That one came in courtesy of you in the chat. And I think that was from, let me see who that was. Doan. Let me just confirm this. Debbie. Thank you, Debbie. Looks like Glanville vacated his own order, which gave access to the bunker. Do you know what's up now? No, apparently there is no order. So Brad can continue on with his bunker count, which is crazy. So we'll have to revise our segments in the aftermath of that. But thank you for flagging that for me because I would not have seen that otherwise. Interesting, interesting. All right. So anyways, my friends, nevertheless, it's been a good stream. We have covered some good things. If you're just getting here, we talked about a lot of interesting things. The judge ultimately did issue the injunction before reversing himself. So the injunction is no longer valid. So I think the bunker can continue on tonight, but arguably for the foreseeable future, we'll come back and on general election night, this lawsuit will have marinated long enough. The 5-day rule won't be an issue anymore. They'll have to respond. If they don't respond, then they'll be in default. And the order presumably will follow the same logic that Glanville issued earlier. And we'll see how it fleshes out, but we'll keep our eye on that one. We also learned about the scam between Stacey Abrams' sister, seen here, called Leslie Gardner, and how she helped to cover up the evidence that was presented against 2 judges who were running for higher office out there. Shamira and Jen say that we want to be new Supreme Court judges, even though we are committing judicial misconduct in the middle of the election. Nobody should know about it until after the election. And Stacey Abrams' sister helped to facilitate that in one giant disgusting scam. We also saw that Fani Willis is now moving to recuse other judges who dare to question her ethics. And she's nominated and endorsed one of her very own called Will Wooten, one of the same guys who showed up on the Fani Willis prosecution of President Trump, now wants to be a judge, of course, to probably undo some of the noxious odor out of Fulton County that Fani got hit with in prior proceedings. Then we talked about Ken Paxton, President Trump coming out and endorsing him in a very nice victory. And then lastly, we talked about these 500,000, 400,000 or so ballots that got mailed out that are not supposed to be mailed out. Trump saying the DOJ should look into this. Southern Poverty Law Center update. And Ted Cruz duking it out with a very grumpy Hirono today in the Judiciary Committee. So now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all of this and more. Polls should be closing right around us. And we'll see what some of those results look like. Don't know if we'll get them here tonight, but they'll be back out tomorrow. So if you're in line, stay in line. If you're in line, get your vote in. Let's see who else is here on the day. Man, friends, thank you for these. We got some new membos coming in, some amazing donos, some great conversations, and some suspicious things that are happening. Yeah, suspicious things. Oh, Sandy, you also mentioned the void. Thank you for that. Yeah, hey, here it is. It's the South Park crew. There's dried food and water to last us something for weeks. Hey, and Sev Russ, amazing. I received a call from Eric's house today. Man, thank you, Sev Russ, for letting us know about this. Saying they are a class act. By the way, go Paxton. Man, yeah, shout out. Eric's house. Mama G is calling all of our friends who made incredible donos to support Eric's house. And Severus, thank you for doing that. Thank you for supporting Eric's house. Glad you got a call, and we appreciate your support. It's a great organization, nonprofit, helping people with suicide, overdose, or tragic death. And Severus, thank you for helping out. Hey, Viva Las Vegas. Viva! Thank you for the raid, our friend Viva, right next door on Rumble and the YouTubes. You may know him from the amazing Sunday show, Viva and Barnes, also on Locals and elsewhere. Thanks for checking their stream out. And thank you, Viva. We miss Viva. We haven't talked to Viva in a long time. Viva, we love you. Hey, go Dave, go Dave. Dave Schultz. What's up, Dave Schultz? Double XL in the house. Bringing in 5 new membos. Thank you, Dave. Peggy Holesclaw, welcome. We got KC Cat, BFM. We got Siege Allege and Green Ween. And thank you for coming in. And thank you, Dave Schultz, for bringing 5 new membos in. We'll see you tomorrow morning on the members only morning stream. We had a great stream this morning too. Yeah, and here you go. Thank you, Sandy, for flagging this for us. Sent that one in right after we started the show, man. So that also came down today. Order voiding the TRO. So apparently it's just a notice problem. So the bunker is back in effect tonight. And we'll see what happens on that, because even Congress was saying, we want access to that. This guy over here, Clay Fuller, they're probably all knocking on the door. Hey, let us in. But we'll see what happens. Hey, Rick D. And they are at it again. A suspicious person called near a voting location in Sandy Springs, Georgia. No proof they exist, but now talking about extended hours already during primary season. Police were called to Overlook Park in Sandy Springs and responded with a heavy presence. Suspicious individual. Did another water main break? Oh no, thank you, Rick D. I'm sure will be a lot to debrief tomorrow. One old guy. Abrams' sisters should be on a crusade against seed oils. It's true. Yeah, processed sugars and processed foods, according to the damage all that did to them. Yeah, I mean, it's not just a physical thing. It's also, a mental problem. You don't want poison coursing through your veins. So I think you're right about that one, old guy. We all should be a little cautious about seed oils, processed sugars, and processed foods, and Democrat ideology. It's another one to add to the list. Thank you, one old guy. Thank you for the nice dono. Hey, Lori Pipkin. All those pictures should be fired and jailed. Why does Fani have any power? Man, the people of Fulton County love Big Fani. They reelected her. More Fani is what they say. But maybe you're saying prosecutors should be fired, or the photographers who take the pictures of Stacey Abrams' sister should also be fired? Maybe. I think on both accounts, that's true. I think that there were serious ethical problems in Fani Willis's office. She should have been disbarred. And at least. And of course, she wasn't. Nothing really happened to her at all. She just continues on. She says now she's the victim of a political attack, and you should support more Fani. So it's the entire perversion of the judicial system. And you see what happens. They just go to Stacey Abrams' sister and they say, cover up for the judges. That's how gross the whole thing is. So it's power, right? Power begets power. And they just continue to promote themselves higher up the chain. Hey, Mock Schnell, man. Thanks for bringing in 20 new Membos. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the morning. T-Bone, and grab the members only stream from this morning. We talked about, Trump had a great press briefing this morning. It was fun. We got to hang out live on that one. Nathaniel Wilbanks, what's up? Skip Jackson, good to see you. Melicia's here. Lauren DeLulu, what's up? The C-SPAN review. Hydrogen Bomb, what's up? Jetta Cunningham. A Wolf O. Og Bosgirl. We got IK's shuttle service. IKSAS shuttle service, welcome. Ashley McNamara in the house. Mac Pack Sherman, welcome. Hill Pirate Studios, Melissa Morgan. We got Arbitrary Objections, Vinman in the house. Jenny from the beach. We got Caden Cruiser and Justin Justin D, welcome to the show. Hey, thank you, Mock Schnell, for bringing all the new members in the house. All right, Will Crump. Hey, come midterms, we better have strike teams of election law attorneys on standby because the stakes are too high for Dems not to cheat. Totally. And it sounds like the RNC is all over that. I mean, he said 130 plus elections, 32 states, various lawyers all getting stood up to get ready to rock in, put me in coach. So we're happy to see that. Yeah, the Democrats have been building their bench for a very long time. So it's nice to see the Republicans who are responding and doing the same. What's up, Will Crump? Thank you. Neoe, what's up? Hey, Democrats ruining the UDA since 7/5/1775. Well, they ruin everything. Yeah, they ruin everything, basically. Of course, I meant people, not pictures. Oh, got it. Well, I don't know. I mean, this picture is pretty rough. Like the photographer, you might say, yeah, it's like, bro, what are you doing? Anyways, so either way, I think thank you for the dono, Lori Pipkin. Very nice to have you here. They should be fired, but they're doing their jobs. That's the thing. They're not doing a bad job. It might be unethical, but it's good. They're supporting Fani and her political prosecution against Trump and 18 other co-defendants. So they're doing their jobs. That's why they get promoted. Vic Reynolds, Georgia Bureau of Investigations, was supposed to go investigate the election fraud claims. Didn't. Told a senator, Perdue, I can't do that anymore because Brian Kemp told me to be a team player. And then he got promoted. So they're doing their jobs. It's a political attack. So they're not going to get fired. They get, accolades. Hey, thank you, Lori. OSPAC. Hey, Rob, arriving late, so sorry if this has already been covered, but given what it appears, the courts are using TROs as a way to stop appeals court reviews of their judicial coup. How would one go about enabling the appeals court to be able to review a TRO? Is this a court internal thing that SCOTUS has to do, or is it something that Congress could simply state, like the jurisdiction stuff? So, yeah, it's a great question. So, temporary restraining orders are supposed to be temporary, right? They're not supposed to be a permanent injunction. So the way it goes, like a TR, you come in, emergency, everyone's skidding in here. Whoa, they're going to blow the building up like now? Okay, TRO. We're going to wait 3 days, come back, have a quick hearing on that. Then I can issue an injunction or not. But what the courts do is they're basically entering TROs that they say are TROs, but they're not. They're actually preliminary injunctions, right? They actually are more permanent. They just keep it temporary for a long period of time. So we literally just saw this OSPAC happen yesterday. So if you missed yesterday's show, go back and check it out. But the 11th Circuit did that, right? So they said, and we kind of went through it pretty quickly because it's procedural and it's kind of, monotonous. But in the 11th Circuit decision that we read yesterday, they said that Stacey Abrams' sister entered a TRO. It wasn't a preliminary or a permanent injunction. And it essentially was, though. Okay, she called it a TRO to say that it can't be appealable, but they treated it as a PI, as a preliminary injunction. They treated it as what it was ultimately. And then because a TRO is not appealable, supposedly, but if it's actually a PI masquerading as a TRO, then they can treat it as a PI. So there is a mechanism in the law to do that. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. The 11th Circuit said, we're going to treat it as a PI. Therefore, we do have jurisdiction. Therefore, it is appealable. So we're going to issue a decision on it. And they handed it back down to say the records can come out. So I would reference you back to, if you want to get into the nuts and bolts of it, it's the 11th Circuit decision that we read yesterday about Shamira. And that's a pretty good example of exactly how it is. In other words, so it doesn't need to go to the Supreme Court or anything. There's already a mechanism. You just can't masquerade a TRO as a PI. They'll just treat it as a PI. And there's a procedure to make that equation. Great question, though. Win Rossin, what's up, Win? Thank you for becoming a supporter and a membo. And we'll see you tomorrow morning on the members only stream. Hey, Michelle, thank you very much. Hey, Rob, an explosive device was thrown at a polling place in Lehigh County in Pennsylvania. This polling place is a church. No one was hurt and voting continues. It's madness. What was it? It wasn't like a black cat, right? Was it something bigger than that? Was it a firework? Was it one of those little snap things? Or was it much bigger than that? Probably bigger than that. Michelle, thank you for the heads up, man. Things are getting wild out there. It's not even the general yet. It's just a primary season. And we're already at this stage? Not good. Michelle, thank you for the dono. We'll keep our eye on that. We'll come back tomorrow and see what all the fallout is from the election. One old guy, Corn on the Cob, Cornyn, and Thune the Goon are RINOs. They're like all the other RINOs and the Democrats. Power, power, power to thwart everything that will make this 21st century USA great and the uniparty of RINOs and Democrats. That's what we're trying to do, man. One old guy. We want America. We want the Constitution. We want sanity, not whatever the Democrats are claiming they offer. Hey, Michelle says it's still under investigation, so they don't know. Interesting. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, thank you. One old guy, thanks for the dono. Hey, Biltong is here. Turn up the flavor with Peri Peri Biltong. Mild heat, big flavor, over 50% protein to keep you going. Try the full range over at BiltongUSA.com. And you can use code Robert. You'll save 10% off at kingofbiltong.com. What's going on? We got Lori Pipkin. What are they doing about Sharia law? Which ones? The RINOs? I don't know. But today we saw that Ken Paxton is suing that, I guess, fake university, Texam, Texas University of Muslims, or whatever their name was, operating illegally. I don't know that has much to do with Sharia law, but Ken Paxton is, I guess, they're operating in their university under their own law. I don't know if that would fit under Sharia, but he's suing them. So that's one thing. Rick D, here's a follow-up on the Georgia situation. Police and SWAT have closed the entrance to Overlook Park in Sandy Springs, firing shots. So in Atlanta, there's shots being fired. And in, what was that, Pennsylvania? There's bombs being thrown. The heck is going on out there, man? That's not good. A suspicious person, yeah, and extending voting hours. So Rick D, that was a follow-up on that one. And Pennsylvania. Wow. All right, that's not good. Yeah, not good. Rick D says the voting location is right in the middle of the northern Atlanta metro area. Ison Springs Elementary School. Man, thank you, Rick D. Keeping my eye on the cables, too, not seeing anything there. Oh, is that Fulton County? Wow, up near Alpharetta. Man, I had to go to a conference in Alpharetta once. Let me just say, never again, ever. One old guy, safeguards, ha, 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 ha. What about the safeguards for not making and sending out the wrong ballots, you wingnuts? Yeah, well, that's probably just another administrative error, just a little oversight. No nefariousness there. Don't get mad at us. Somebody just hit the wrong Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, thank you, one old guy. Baby Lewis, Rob, awesome show. So much great information. I learned so much from you and the Watcher fam. God bless. And prayers and America, and love us all. Thank you, Baby Lewis. We love you back. God bless you back, my friend. Thank you for the nice compliment. Yeah, today was a little squirrely. We thought we had a good update, and then he reversed himself. One old guy. Hey, did you see Mark Cuban hopping around like a blind fool at a wiener roast while Trump answered that question about the ballots? I didn't see that. I think I saw Mark up there. They were talking about prescription drugs. And then somebody asked him about, hey, Trump, why are you up on stage with somebody who endorsed Kamala? And then Mark looked like, eh. But that's all that I saw. Thank you, one old guy, for the nice dono. Everybody, it's like fair weather fans, right? They all thought Kamala was going to win. They all thought Trump would be in jail. They all thought that he'd be disqualified. Then, you know, many of them are just out for their pocketbooks, not really out for America at all. So Trump went, oh, we love Trump. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg, let me go to the White House. How much money did you donate to stop Trump in 2020? Oh, yeah, hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, that's right. Now you love him again. Off label says the judiciary hearing on the Southern Poverty Law Center tomorrow. Want to hear what stupid arguments for defending this are? We'll probably cover it. Man, check that out. Off label podcast right next door on all of the platforms. Debbie, thank you for flagging the bunker story for us. Don't know what's up other than looks like he reversed himself based on a notice problem. But yeah, thank you, Debbie. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow. But sounds like they're still going to likely have a follow-up hearing, and he can present himself on the 28th. So I would presume the lawsuit continues on. Unless Raffensperger, reverses policy, we'll probably come back on it on the 28th when they actually have the hearing. Rob says, I can't believe what happened with Boebert in a theater. We remember that one. That security cam got that little. And then supposedly Massey. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. Maybe it's true. I have no idea. But there's a lot of indictment allegations going on out there. Thank you, Rob, for the dono. Baby Lewis, Kamala was doing her black voice the other day when her hair was a mess. Yeah, we saw that. We played that hair. She looked terrible. Looked like she was waking up, drunk or something without even putting a comb through your hair. Like, run a comb through your hair, Kamala. Thank you for that, Baby Lewis. We did see it. Miss Kayla, if they complain about Dems but still vote Dems, they're stupid and not to be given an ounce of credence. Yeah, well, that's a lot of it out there. Like, the Democratic Party doesn't have high marks. Many Democrats are furious that they're losing, they're getting blown out, they're not fighting Trump hard enough, blah, blah, blah. But they're still going to vote for them because that's just who they do and who they are. Blue, no matter who. Hey, Rick D. Okay, wait, so a defendant doesn't show up and that avoids the default judgment? So who passed that rule? Yeah, it feels like it's very exploitable. You just don't show up. You know that they didn't sue you within 5 days. So as long as you've got, make your decisions after the 5 days, nobody can touch you. And the judge reversed himself. Hey, I mean, we knew that when Glanville was removed from the young thug trial that he was somewhat compromised or not so smart from Debbie O. Yeah, we didn't follow that trial a lot, but that's interesting. He was on there too. He goofed. He like reversed himself hard. He wrote a whole opinion and it was like, oops, I didn't know that. And then ended it. Kind of embarrassing for him. Thank you, Debbie, for flagging it for us. Sandy, you too. Hey, Dan, Rob sent the raid to People's Pundit for Rumble when this program ends. You are sending it? Or we're happy to send it. Yeah, People's Pundit. We know their work. Is he covering the election tonight? Amazing. Hey, yeah, but Trump, the judge was shown some different seashells. Oh. You think Comey gave him a phone call? You know, Judge, I was walking on the beach and I saw this. Thank you, yeah, but Trump, for the double dono. Hey, Dark Rogue. Yeah, Glanville was a real judge for about 3 hours. Then wait, this will help Republicans. He asked his AI assistant. Hey, blank. Hey, how do I reverse this? It's like, here, just cite this statute and undo everything. So then Raffensperger's like, woo, that was close. And just goes and now can do whatever he wants to the spreadsheets, whatever he wants to the ballots and all the things without any concern. Charlie Duck, what's up, Charlie? Thank you for becoming a member, Charlie. We'll see you in the morning on the members only stream. And if you're looking for something else to watch, Trump did a great press briefing this morning. We covered a large part of it and it was good. Todd Blanche also testified this morning. Thank you, Dark Rogue. Yeah, hopping into the AI, judge is like, oh, what do I do? Oh, I know, 9-10-2. That'll do it. Hey, even though he gave an explanation for why the emergency was an emergency and they had an opportunity to respond but didn't do that. Incredible. Hey, Dark Rogue, thanks again for bringing in 20 new membos. We got Texas Real, 007 is here. BJ Bumblebee, what's up? McFain is here. Cosmic Shield Maiden, Rob Price, what's up? Curly Girly. How about No is here. Michael Milano, Truth AF is here. Shadow, 1869 Night Crew. We got Ellie Philo, Prince Vibes. We got From Roots to Radicals. Off-Label Pod, what's up? Going live. Pam Martin, Faith Walker, Debbie Error, 123. We got Annette Nunez. Sure Jan is here. We got Uncle Ball League and Doan in the house. Man, what a great welcome in. We appreciate all of our new membos, courtesy of Dark Rogue, OG in the house, and we'll see you in the morning. What a lovely day. Hey, what's up, Rick D? Thought about Eric's house a lot over the weekend. I was notified late May 13th, my oldest daughter passed in a motor vehicle accident. Flew out the night of the 14th to help my son-in-law and grandkids. Hug your family every day. You never know what tomorrow will bring. Rick. Man, I am so sorry, brother. I had no idea about that. I am so sorry to hear that. Okay, so, man, that breaks my heart, brother. I'm really sorry to hear that. May your daughter rest in peace. Man, I know you've had some hardships, man. I know you've had some real hardships, so I'm really sorry to hear that. All right, look. You know Eric's house. If they can help, please reach out to them. If I can help, let's connect. My friends, let's pray for Rick's daughter. She's up in heaven with many of our other loved ones. God is watching over her. I think Rick's advice is very well received. Hug your family every day. You never know what's going to happen. So, Rick, we're going to pray for you. We're going to pray for your family. We're going to pray for your son-in-law, for their kids, for your grandkids. I'm so sorry to hear that, man. So we're going to continue to pray. And, you know, man, let's chat, brother, because that's just, I'm really sorry to hear that. Rick, prayers your way. Friends in the chat, thanks for praying for the Rick D family. Peng One, welcome new membos, 35 months, man. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Peng One. 35 months as a membo. That's a long time, my friend. We really appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Wojo, for the moron Democrats, says, I made a deck of playing cards called the Trump deck because it only has 48 cards and there are no kings. That's pretty funny. But they love kings. They were doing no kings protests in England. Like, you literally have a king, you weird freaks. How dare you come over here and say that we have a king when you literally have a king? Rubos, hey, Mama G called us yesterday. We were touched and honored to talk to her. Hey, Rubos, man, RubosSaltShop.com, ericshouse.org. She asked about my brother, Robert. Cheryl Lynn told her that Robert had been drug addicted and homeless for years. I tried for decades to help him, and it broke my heart to lose him 12 years ago. We had adopted his son in 1997, who has grown up to be a fine young man. Man, Rubos, we love the Rubos. Amazing people, best prayers, and the best salt at RubosSaltShop.com. Sending prayers up for Rick D and his family. Lots of prayers up there for Rick. Man, thank you for sending those over to his family. And same to your brother, Robert. It's tough to lose a brother. It sounds like you guys did everything you possibly could. And he's also up in heaven. And so we're really glad that you guys are, doing well. Thank you for raising his son and turning him into a fine young man. And the Rubos, really glad you got to talk to Mama G. She really appreciates you, and she really loves your salt, too. We all love your salt. It's a household item. So, Rubos, thank you for that. They have a great book on Amazon as well. My Father's Miraculous Rock Soup, a great book. Hey, Jim tells you we're going to send a raid over your way. Sheila the Pooh, a million hugs to you. Thank you for bringing in 10 new membos. Kelly Salnow, welcome back. RM, what's going on? The Peter Son Dean. We got Lurch Linger, Dave Kovacs. I am Uncle Bob R. Welcome. Let's get real with Lori G. What's up? Not Wraith is here. And Michael Bard, all gifted membos in the house, courtesy of Sheila Pooh. A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, for bringing in our new membo friends. And all right, my friends, I think election results are coming in. 13% are in Kentucky. Galrain is up 57 to 43, beating Massey. And so we'll see if that trend holds. I suspect that it will. That's happening in Kentucky right now. Although it's not a lot of votes, okay? It's 9,300 to 7,000 votes. So Galrain is up by about 2,300 votes, but that's still 13% of the vote. So we'll see if that holds. Obviously, that is continuing on. And Fox News is doing a bunch of the reporting. They're bouncing around to other locations as those numbers keep coming in. Hey, Dan says Leslie Adams is the chief judge in the Middle District of Georgia. Reladella says sham miracle. That's why they don't say sham miracle, because it's too much of a sham. Dan sharing some songs. The devil went down to Georgia. No doubt. Hey, Viva Maga says, Rob, per Muse, I just had to reset the counter app to 0 days without trans violence. Also got a lovely call from Mama G. She's the best. Tell me about it, man. I'm a lucky boy. And they help a lot of people out there. So if you need it, man, you can see we lose people, man. We lose people. It affects us all. We lose people to overdose, tragic death, and suicide. And in this case with Rick, man, it's a tragic death. So you just never know. So we're really grateful for Eric's house. And trans violence is also happening. San Diego mosque shooter were a trans couple. They're everywhere, man. Just blasting fools all over the place. Hey, send the raid to People's Pundit, Dan said. Awesome. Yeah, send it over there, man. Rich Barris and the People's Pundit. Happy to send him over there. Sounds like he's going to be doing some good election coverage. That's great news. Oh, okay. Here's another update on Georgia GOP. Just dropped this one not long ago. Statement: we strongly condemn the court's reversal of its decision to grant access to the election room. The TRO was necessary and proper step to respect Georgia law and restore basic transparency. Granting observers the ability to watch every facet was the right call. Reversing that order has inflicted serious damage. First, the court opened the door to accountability, then slammed it shut. That flip-flop undermines public confidence not only in the specific process, but in the integrity of the entire election night reporting system. Whatever the final outcome of this primary, it will be tainted by the refusal to allow bipartisan observers the ability to watch all stages of the process. Voters deserve to see how their votes are received, verified, aggregated, and reported, not shielding it from scrutiny. We call on the courts to immediately reinstate access. To us, transparency is not negotiable. The people of Georgia expect and are entitled to nothing less. So I'm sure they're not going to get it tonight. But yeah, pretty wild the judge reversed himself so aggressively like that. Maybe should have read the statutes before he issued a very aggressive order that said, let him in. Yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, so Neuro D over on X. Thank you for flagging our Rumbles page here. Neuro D, you're the man. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where you can become a member. We got B Torn talking about watchdog groups, citizen.org and ProPublica, and also talking about federal agents. Thank you, B Torn, for the links. 800 cases against the Trump administration. Every case included Tito Pedro Hernandez over at justsecurity.org, a tracker. Yeah, they're suing like mad. It's crazy. Thank you, B Torn. Hey, Sean Hansen, they keep trying and failing, but it doesn't stop them. They just ask again and again and keep wasting time. Hey, can you please post a video of the black woman speaking about voting? She rocked. Yeah, that was over at Colin Rugg. So let me just repost that right now to the top of our timeline, Sharon, so you can check that out.
Reality is this.
We'll post that to the top of our timeline so you can go and follow that if you're over there. And let's see, where do we go? Dwight, what's up? Hey, the real fascist Socialist Democrat Party cannot win and won't win. The truth will wreck them. And it's because the first part of her name is sham, because she's a sham and not a miracle. Yeah, and apparently violates judicial code of conduct. Right to think. Great comments. You're going to like all those posts over there. That's where you can follow us on X on the evening. If you'd like to watch over there, we'd love to see you over there. But friends, let's pause here for the night. See if there's any other updates on the election. Still 13% of the vote. Galrain still 9,300 to Massey 7,000. So that hasn't changed yet. MS Now reporting the same numbers. And so those will keep on trickling in. Hey, Benny Boy says, woman caught red-handed on video paying homeless to regular people to vote, and a group of people doing the same thing. They let her cop a plea. No follow-up? Question? We covered that yesterday, actually. We read through the full thing at the end of the show yesterday. So, Benny Boy, you may have missed it, but that one was the woman that O'Keefe Media essentially busted. She did take a plea deal. Looks like it's going to be kind of a no agreement sentencing, so the judge can sentence her whatever she wants. She'll probably get probation if I had to guess. The DOJ, we read through the full plea agreement yesterday. She'll come back for sentencing at a later date, but we covered that whole segment yesterday. So check it out. Final segment yesterday, and I think we released a standalone video today as well. But yeah, I forget what her name is. Brenda Brown Armstrong, something like that. We read through all the documents yesterday. And it happened very quickly. Information, guilty plea. She did her appearance. She'll come back to actually enter the plea at a later date. But yeah, that was yesterday. Thank you, Benny Boy, for the dono as we wrap it up here, my friends. And so we'll pause here for the night. Want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll do a full election debrief, no doubt. We got Muffin Rando, man. Thank you, Donut Mind Me. We got John in the house. Mod in the fort down, keeping things nice and orderly, along with K-Bean, Carrie B, over on Rumble, Neuro D, Janik, Dog Digger, Geegum Geegum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda, keeping things beautiful around here. We appreciate our amazing mods, and we appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us as we keep our eyes and tabs on all of the election madness that's happening around us and many other things. And thank you for joining us tomorrow, because we will be back here to get into it again. Should be a lot to debrief together. Excited to do that. But until we're back here, I hope that your evening is restful, peaceful, beautiful. You enjoy the election returns, and that you come back and return yourself tomorrow, because we will be back here to get into it again. And in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful primary night, a beautiful rest. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers shine in the light. Watching the watchers defending what's right. Watching the watchers.